All right, y'all. Hello. Welcome back to Just Jasa. This is Jasa. Hi, I'm Jasa. And today we will be discussing working out of responsibility. And while I do that, I will be packaging some of my stuff for my upcoming event. So please do not mind me. All right, so let's just get a recap of this month, right? So this month we discussed never being satisfied. We've also discussed the hype of a black girl, and I believe our last video was on no more bitter bitch. Yes. So all of these videos have tied into each other in the sense of trying to understand the position we play in our lives, right? So never being satisfied, always overcompensating for things that only you care about, establishing your value based on other people's expectations, right? And then we go into, reading stuff at the same time. We went into hype of a black girl, and my apologies, and we talked about the wild expectations placed on us by society, trying to keep up with hairstyles, trying to keep up with the body formity, trying to do all of these things so we can be this essential black girl, trying to be the just pinnacle of the community based on standards set by other people. Okay? Standards set by ourselves, standards set by society, and then we moved on to no more bitter bitch. And these are things that we placed on, once again, ourselves based on the things people are doing around us. Thinking that we're incapable of moving forward, incapable of making all these changes and progress because of things that we're seeing other people do. Now, once again, I want to make sure we mention we are not haters. We are not jealous people. We do not fuel ourselves and our decisions and our frustration towards our work as, oh my gosh, they're doing better than I am. Why? That just doesn't make sense. No. We don't do that over here. However, we do find ourselves constantly wondering when we're going to make it and feeling like our work just isn't enough or that we're not doing something right. So constantly challenging our own process in our own journey because we see that someone else's journey is just a little bit easier, or from our perspective, easier. In reality, it's just their journey. Okay? Once again, we're not haters. We don't do that. So, with that recap, this video is going to be on, we will be talking about working out of responsibility, and this really goes into just exactly what it says. We're doing things out of responsibility instead of passion and excitement, and it tends to cause us to have a downward spiral. So without any more rambling, let's get right into it. Okay, so let's see. So I started working when I went to college, right? That was my first official job. Now, at this job, I absolutely loved it, right? I worked in retail. I did a lot with clothes. For people that know me, y'all know clothes is everything for me. So when it came down to working in a store, y'all, I was over the moon. So working there wasn't where my journey began when it came to working out of responsibility. I believe that for me, it started when I tried to do too much. So it's kind of crazy as I'm talking about this because everything kind of trickled down from each topic that we talked about this month. Because I started feeling like I was never satisfied, right? So when I went to school, I was blessed enough to have my father was able to pay for my tuition. And at that point, I was still getting allowance. I was still having my needs met. But instead of just accepting that that's where I was, I found the need to have 2 jobs, a full school load, and still want to be able to pay my own bills. For what? Yeah, I didn't take advantage of the opportunity to sit on my butt and just get my education. So there it was, never being satisfied. Kicked in high gear, and here I am trying to maintain 2 jobs, my grades, and a social life. y'all, social life was non-existent. But I say all that to say that was my first moment. Okay, although I absolutely loved and enjoyed everything I did, so it wasn't really working out of responsibility quite yet, but it was beginning my journey of just self-destruction. All right, so we move on. Here I am, 2 jobs. I'm in school, I'm getting it, you know. Every time they see me, I got a new outfit, new bag. You feel like I was doing it. However, I had a lot of things that were kind of playing in my, I don't want to say for my downfall, because nothing that happened to me will I ever say was a bad thing, because I absolutely, you know, adore what got me to this point. I would never change anything. However, for a sophomore in college, it was not ideal. And instead of seeing it as, you know, hey, this is something that could add more responsibility, I chose to see it as an opportunity to excel, to be someone that I have been craving to be. And I have shared it, so please don't mind me if it gets a little hard to talk about, but I was on the path of being a mom early. And I wasn't realizing how much that would change for me. So instead of seeing it that way, it really set me back when I decided to not, right? When I chose to realize where I was in life, and I chose myself. So that came up, and I started to find ways to fill that void. For people, once again, that know me, you know I love my dog. I do. I love Chewy to death. However, he is a responsibility. Sometimes I'll be questioning, because I got him out of the need to fill that void. And in turn of filling that void, here came all of these new responsibilities. Although I know people are like, oh, he's just a dog. What could he need? A lot. Yep. He's a bulldog. So if you know, you know, a lot. And here I am. I took on a new responsibility without really understanding where it would lead me. Okay? So fast forward, because I can ramble on about the details of my life for a very long time, but we won't sit there. I ended up getting married the first time, and it was cool. You know, I didn't have to work. I didn't have to be in certain positions, but I wanted to, because I was just starting my business. I was finishing up school. I'm trying to get to a certain point in my life. So I needed to do this in order to be able to have that extra income, you know. And during that time, I met a lot of women who were stay-at-home moms, or just housewives in the best way possible. I'm a housewife now, so don't come for me. But that would talk about that experience of the allowance and just a lot of restraints, right? And I didn't want that. So here I am again, putting myself in a position to have to work out of, never being satisfied, and trying to beat the odds. And it led me down kind of a realization for myself, which is why my marriage, the first one, ended, was a lot of me, self-reflection, trying to figure out where I stood, what I needed to do for myself. And I started to venture out. I started to do my business. I started wanting to travel and get stuff done and make these connections. And in order to do that, I had to make money. And in order to make money, I had to work out of responsibility. I wanted these things had to be done. And although I went back and forth with wanting to work, it got to a point where I absolutely hated where I worked. And it obviously changes your mindset when you're working somewhere you absolutely love. Like I mentioned, my very first job, I made nothing. However, I was at that job every day they needed me. I was with bells on. I loved it there. Even the second job I had worked during that time, I did. I absolutely loved it. But having to switch up and go to work because I was trying to fund my dream, the motivation was lost. It was gone. And you would think, okay, you're trying to fund your your business, you're trying to grow. You would think that the excitement would be there, or that you are constantly motivated. That is inaccurate, because if I think about it and I'm like, when I go home, or whenever I'm at home, I could be doing something I absolutely love, but I have to spend at least 8 hours each day at this place that I truly despise. Why would I want to do that? You know, you're constantly thinking about when you get off, even if I'm exhausted, when I get off. And just to give you some insight, that was something that ended up being an issue in my first marriage, was every conversation, every time together was spent trying to build. You know, I had him doing orders. I need you to help me, you know, because this is my dream. And in turn, he did the same things. He wanted to be gone to work and get promoted and do all these other things for his career. So it became a clash, because we're trying to, you know, fill voids and do things on our own. And after that marriage, I continued to work out of obligation, or I continued to search out of obligation, because I ended up moving. I had to move and start over, basically. And whereas I had so much more motivation to do it, because instead of knowing that when I got home I had something different or more exciting to do, I was on my own. I was back to really trying to figure out where do I want to be? What am I going to do? How am I going to take care of these bills that I didn't have to worry about, right? And although it wasn't, don't get me wrong, I'm not a moocher. I'm pretty good at taking care of myself, so it wasn't a huge thing, but it was a wake-up call. So here I am. I'm searching for jobs out of necessity, out of, okay, girl, you got bills to pay. Your credit debt is racking up because you're trying to cover them without doing the extra work, 9 to 5. It's calling your name and you're not picking up. So I actually ran into, as you know, my teaching career, and it went from responsibility to another joy in my life. And y'all, that's the story for another day, but that was short-lived. I'm going to just leave it there. But I say all this to say, you may never consistently be in a position or in a stage of your life where you're working out of joy, out of passion. At some point, some stage in that growth, you're going to meet that necessity, that responsibility. You can have a thriving business one day, and the next day you're filing applications because you're trying to get back into the group. Anything can happen. And although we strive to be successful, we strive to be these amazing people, it still takes time. It still takes setbacks. It's going to take all of these realizations that I refuse to acknowledge sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. I do. Because I want to understand, what's the point of doing the work if it's on the line? If it's still something I'm going to have to look at and wonder, are you going to make it? Or is it stable? Okay. And when I had my son, that was something huge I had to let go. I had just got on a salary. I ain't never have a salary before. And I've always had a job. I've always made money. I've always made good money. However, I've never been salary. And I finally get on. I get this job. Although it's not the best experience, it was mine. I worked my butt off for it. I'm almost done with my damn degree for it. But it's one of those things that I made a decision. I wanted to be there for my son. I wanted to be able to be near my husband when I went into labor, which, God, thank you so much, I was. But I had lost that choice because now I'm back in a position where I have to search out of responsibility. So as soon as I could, here I was finding jobs from home that I hated. Yeah, I hated. Absolutely despise. And it wasn't to a point anymore where it was like, okay, girl, you got to do this because you have to do it. No, I didn't want to show up. For what? I was making scraps. I could barely cover gas in my car with what they were offering me. And I just came from a position where I always had a surplus of money, even after savings and bills and all the other fun stuff I wanted to buy for that month. And that was mind-blowing to me. That was crazy to see myself having to go back to a position where I was working out of responsibility. Never down it, because I have my child. He's absolutely amazing. He gets to see me every day. I get to see him every day. Win-win, right? And there's always, we can always go back. We can always revisit that stage where I was in a position to do what I love and be off on weekends and be off on holidays and have these random days off in the middle of the month because of some, I don't know, crazy festival going on. But it gave me more time. Here I am, building my business. And because of that career, because of that opportunity that I put myself in, that for so long, once I got into that position, it was becoming more of a responsibility, because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And like I said, that's another video, so I won't drag it too long, but that position I worked so hard to get into ended up being very hard. And not in the sense of like, oh, you have to do extra work. No, I don't mind that. It was mentally challenging, emotionally draining, trying to constantly figure out, why am I here? I went from loving my job, wanting to be there every day, seeing the babies, I love the kids, wanting to just do what I can to help them, to I struggled getting to work. From the people to the system to the expectation, it was not what people think. And I learned that very quickly. So once again, we go on these paths, we go on these cycles of ups and downs, where at one moment we're in a position to where it is exactly what we need to do. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. It's engaging, it's passionate, it's so many things. To where in a moment's notice, here we are back in a sense of responsibility, back in a sense of necessity. Now we are doing this for what? And I believe that at some point it's our job to figure out how we can make it that passion, just enough to keep us showing up, to keep us engaged long enough to find that little spark that keeps us going. And y'all, right now, this is where I'm at. I am not working out of responsibility, because I have an amazing husband that's allowing me to work out of my passion. And then once we get back on our feet, meaning we move or we do whatever is happening next, that I will be back to being able to work out of responsibility with a desire to have some passion in my life, and I'm okay with that. And I think the crazy thing is the drive, or what motivates my passion or engagement for what I'm doing, changes too, right? So when I had my son, my motivation was somewhere at home, good flexibility, good pay, so on and so forth. And now that me and my husband are talking about next steps, my motivation is, I'm ready to get this money. I'm ready to get this money. I'm ready to have these days off. I'm ready for everything that I had that I saw as a great thing. However, I didn't realize how much I would want that. And now that I have, I'm ready to get back on track. So I say all that to say that when we are going through these different stages, it will never be, okay, I worked to get here, I'm good. Like, that's the end of it. Like, you don't have to keep working. You're expected to go back downhill. It's always going to be changing. Your motivation's always going to change. Your desires, your needs are constantly changing. Nothing is set in stone. It's just not, because anything can happen. And using my experiences, I hope that sheds a lot of light on that, and understanding the various ways that we kind of self-sabotage, right? So don't find a reason to never be satisfied. your value is on you. You can't sit here and throw so many expectations on yourself that, yes, they're looked at, but for how long? You know, it's cool to say, oh, yeah, I have all these certifications. Oh, I've done so many things. This is my resume, blah, blah, blah. But how long is it going to be admired? Let's just think about the graduation status, right? So we hear our parents, or at least my parents, say all the time how a bachelor's degree when they were growing up, was much more valuable than what it is now. For me, at least when I started, a master's degree was equivalent of a bachelor's. And I can only imagine what it's going to be for my son. And I'm just trying to catch up, So it's like that bar is constantly raising, it's constantly moving, especially for people that look like me. We are always fighting, we are always struggling, which is why I say our Black girl hype. Y'all, we can't meet every standard, we can't meet every expectation, we can't beat every obstacle. It's okay. Pick your best attributes and work on those. Do that, because trying to meet everybody's attributes, trying to beat everybody's expectations, trying to be this golden child, golden woman, golden man, you're always going to be behind. You're always going to be struggling. You're always going to be fighting, and you're always going to be mentally and physically draining yourself. It's not worth it. I promise you it's not. So I don't know. As I always say, I'm still learning. And it's crazy because I didn't expect to have this much to say on this topic, but as I start thinking about just the different ways that I've experienced everything and how they all truly lead up to each other, it's crazy on how long I can talk about this and how far I can go. But you know me, I'm not big on the long stuff. I can't. Y'all start getting a headache. It's too much. But I know my strengths, and my strengths is giving you a little bit enough to get you going and understand where to start and how to deal with it, and that you're not alone. And as we do more videos, we'll talk more about it, because I feel like this is just the beginning for me when it comes to this topic. And until I talk to you guys, I don't think it truly sets in what I'm saying, if that makes sense, or what I've learned and what I am experiencing, because I see connections every time I say something. I see a new connection, and it's crazy to me because a lot of us don't realize it or don't think that it has an effect on us. We're quick to lie to ourselves and be like, oh no, I don't do that, just because we don't want to have something else that we have to work on. And that's cool. That's your business. Mind my business. Stay in my lane. However, if you watching, I'm going to call you on it. Yes, stop lying to yourself. It's okay. Add it to your list. Don't try and figure it out now, but add it to your list, because it is something that we need to be aware of and be capable of dealing with for the betterment of ourselves and our growth and our journeys. So, anyway, that's pretty much it. I definitely enjoy this. I definitely enjoy the longevity of my journey. I definitely have gotten to a point where I wanted it to be super quick. I wanted it to be over. I wanted to understand. I wanted to do so many different things. But I'm enjoying the longevity. I'm enjoying the drag. So, yeah, leave it there. I am super excited. I have our October calendar planned, and I'm hoping to kind of expand more on these topics and kind of what I have planned for next month. We have one more video in September that will get some more perspectives on this video, right? Kind of connecting with what I spoke about, my past marriage and the expectations and where all this working out of responsibility comes from. So that video will be shared in my story, so make sure you're watching. And I will have my ambassadors on. We will be talking about the topic and sharing our different perspectives, and hopefully I have the formation of the video look a lot better. But other than that, You know me, I'm always going to come back and share more of my thoughts and make sure I touch on them as best I can. I'm learning to be more vulnerable, so please work with me. As always, I love it here. Thank you so much for coming back. I've been watching my subscribers, y'all. They little up and down, but we're gonna have to work on that. So make sure you find at least one person. Share it, be like, hey, go follow. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, all of that. The usual. Follow my Instagram pages. If you aren't a YouTube person, no problem. We're on Instagram too. All right. So I definitely appreciate you. Make sure that you follow my page because I will be updating on all the fun stuff we're doing. I'm not going to touch on it in this video, but the next video, obviously, I will end it and make sure I go over all the awesome things that are coming up. Thanks for sitting with me while I work. Okay, until next time, make sure you come back on next Friday for our video and be on the lookout for our next SheEO. All right, this is just Jasa. Bye.